go to school, get a job,
Right.
work hard, pay taxes,
Yeah.
save money, buy a house, and put your money in the stock market.
Right.
I don't touch any of that. I'm an entrepreneur. I'd rather be like Mr. Tata,
Right.
who owns the stock market.
So you touched upon an important topic, buying a house. And that is a very, very important discussion according to me. And whenever I talk about it, there is always people who disagree with it, right? Because it is so ingrained in our mind that buying a house is the American dream when it comes to US.
Yes.
And in India, it's like buying a house means finally your life is sorted or life is set. But I differ from that because I feel like if you prioritize buying a house which you live in very early on in your life, because in India you can't get married if you don't own your own house,
right.
because the bride's family will ask for that. Okay, does he own a house? And because of that pressure, young Indian males are buying a house in their mid-20s and getting into 20 to 30-year home loans, which kind of gets them bonded to working 9 to 5 jobs for the next 20-30 years, which they can't take any risk.
You got it.
So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts about buying a home? Because it's very difficult to convince Indians, and I get a lot of lashback when I say that, don't buy a house, delay that purchase, focus on building assets which pay you more money. But people disagree.
I face the same thing because I own 15,000 houses.
15,000 houses, okay, which you give it out for rent.
Yeah.
Right.
So nothing wrong with buying a house. Difference is I use debt to buy it.
Okay.
And I pay no taxes. It's not the house, it's not the stock, it's not the bond, it's not the ETF, it's your brains. So I would rather use debt and pay no taxes.
Can you explain that? How do you buy houses without?
Which is capitalism.
Right.
We use debt and we pay no taxes. That's what I teach.
Can you explain the mechanics of that in simple words for the audience? Like, how do you?
In 1971, this became debt.
Okay.
The only way it's created is somebody has to borrow money. So in your credit card, there's no money in your credit card.
Right.
There's no money anywhere. So the moment you use your credit card, money is created. And the US dollar is debt, the rupee is debt, the yuan is debt, the peso, the yen is debt. They need people to borrow money. So when I go to a bank and I say, I want to borrow $20 million, I get huge tax breaks because I'm creating money. But if I use my credit card, I get nothing. Okay, it's up here. Your greatest assets between this year and this year, this year. So that's why I have the cash flow board game. There's not too many in them. The board game was designed to teach you to think like a capitalist. Cash flow.
Okay.
It's all about accounting.
Right. So interesting point, because to be able to do what you just said, that you need to borrow debt, buy homes, and then give it out for rent.
But you gotta have it in your head first.
No, but
Don't go stupid and running out there.
Right. So, but in a country like India, there's a challenge around this because the rental yield is way lower than the cost of borrowing. So in US, it's the opposite, right? Like the rental yield.
Every city in America is different.
Right.
All the laws are different. So the first thing I would do is I'd come here, I'd hire an accountant and attorney,
Okay.
and then I would evaluate your markets.
Right.
And then I would buy or not buy.
Right.
Like I don't own any property in California
Right.
because it's a communist state. I own nothing in New York City, communist. Okay, but I own in Arizona and Texas. The laws are different, so you have to know the laws. You can't be stupid.
So most people make that mistake. I read this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it says you have to buy houses and give it for rent. But in India,
I didn't say that. I said your house is not an asset.
Right, house is not an asset. Yeah.
And this is called financial literacy.
Right.
What is the definition of the word? If it puts money in my pocket, it's an asset.
Correct.
If my house is taking money from my pocket, it's a liability.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with real estate.
Right. Correct. So yeah, for most people confuse that with saying I'll buy the house and I'll only live in it, and that doesn't.
Liability.
That becomes a liability, and most people have a very hard time digesting that. Right?
Because they don't go one more house beyond it, you know.
Yes, they cannot. I mean, it's more.
They think like poor middle class peasants.
They spend 30 years to buy that one house.
Yeah.
How will they afford the next house? Right? Then they have to worry about their retirement, their kids' education, their kids' marriage, their kids' house. No way winning that game.
Everybody wants the easy answer.
Right.
They want to win the lottery.
Right.
They want to be a soccer star.
Yeah.
They want to be a Bollywood star.
Yeah.
And as you said already, they're broke in 10 years.